Thank you very much for joining me for this episode of Protestia Tonight. This is October 13th, 2022, and I'm your host, David Morrill, for the team at Protestia.com. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you're watching the replay of this, you won't even know that this happened, but I'm an honest guy, so I'm going to tell you we had a little technical glitch, so I had to restart the program. That's never happened before. I will happily cut that off and edit later. But anyway, for those of you watching on the live stream or listening later, thank you very much for joining us. This is the program that we hope will be glorifying to God, convicting the sinners, edifying to the saints, a program with sincere questions and biblical answers. We have some interesting topics. I actually was not planning on going live on a Thursday night. This is sort of an off and on thing, mostly off, but every once in a while we go live on Thursday nights. But something happened. Something happened today that I think was, to call it concerning is an understatement. And I really don't use that description lightly. Something happened with the Southern Baptist Convention where I would argue the North American Mission Board had a Freudian slip and admitted what's really going on, who they really are at the core, unfortunately, at least at the positions of leadership. And we're going to discuss that. We have a couple other updates. The main topic certainly will be Southern Baptist in nature. Anyway, but if you like what you hear here and you are blessed by this ministry, you want to join the team financially and help support what we're doing, you can do so for $5.95 a month by going to patreon.com/Protestia. Signing up, you'll get the full version of this program. Now, tonight, we're not doing a patron portion. It's just the portion you're hearing right now. But Tuesday nights, when the main program goes out, you only hear about half of it if you were listening on the Bible Thumping Wingnut RSS feed, which I believe at the time of this recording is still down, or watching on YouTube or whatever you're doing, seeing it on the website on replay on the stream or whatnot. You're only getting half the program. The other half of the program is for patrons only. We call it PT, Protestia Tonight VIP. And that comes through a separate link. And then also you get the full form audio podcast sent directly to your Patreon feed. And you actually have a private RSS feed that you can add to your favorite podcatcher. You can add to Spotify. You can add to Apple, like iTunes. You can add to really any program that plays podcasts. You can add that stuff to, and you'll get the full version of the podcast, which is usually hour and a half to 2 hours. Feel free to listen to it at any speed you want, whatever fits the time frame. Now, for $19.95 a month, you can join us on Tuesday nights for the Bulldogmatic Bible Study and work our way through 2 Corinthians, and as we fellowship and kind of dig into each other's lives. You get, of course, direct access to the team here at Protestia. And not to be too dismissive of our freeloaders, but we do run out of time to respond to things. And if you are a patron, certainly you get first call at first access. We respond to every single message a patron sends us, and you get some say in the direction of the program by asking sincere questions that we answer. Sometimes in the free portion, depending on what it is, but often in the patron portion is where we answer those questions and really dig into your concerns and research and things. In that spirit, I have been putting up, now I think there's 4 up there, but it's going to keep going, worship and music reviews, theological reviews of worship songs, with the idea of is this song appropriate or useful or valuable for corporate worship? We talked about that on the last podcast. You can find those articles over at Protestia.com. This next story that we're going to get into, the main story for tonight, Kevin Ezell and the North American Mission Board and their partnership with just a movement promoting a false gospel, like an awful ecumenical woke Jesus kind of nonsensical movement. And really, what I said in the description of this video was a favor that they were doing for us. They were doing us a favor by making this clear, in my opinion. And we're going to talk about that. But first, a little bit of an update. Actually, before I get to the update, the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is the most important piece of news, the gospel of Jesus Christ. And this is going to be pertinent for tonight because we're going to discuss a false gospel and a false Jesus, and the SBC's unfortunate but altogether predictable partnership with an organization promoting a false gospel. Let's start with the true gospel. The true gospel, of course, is that Jesus Christ was born of a virgin, lived a perfect life according to the scriptures, died a death on a cross according to the scriptures, was raised from the dead according to the scriptures, ascended to heaven, now sits at the right hand of the Father. Now, what difference does that make? Well, the difference it makes is that apart from Christ, all of us are dead and lost in our trespasses and sins, and in full-blown rebellion against a holy and righteous God, and on our way to hell. And yet God so loved the world that he sent his only son, Jesus Christ, to the world to earn righteousness on our behalf and die a death that we deserved on the cross. Outside of faith and trust in Jesus Christ, all of us are lost. And the good news of the gospel is that God saw fit for those of us that place our faith and trust in Jesus Christ to not leave us in that state. And the gospel is, the word itself just means good news. But of course, the capital G gospel, what we refer to the gospel, and we don't change and we don't modify and we don't add things onto it and add components to it later. The capital G gospel is that simple truth. It is simple, straightforward. It's so simple a child can understand it. And yet, when you're saved and now a son or daughter of the Almighty, that's just the beginning. I mean, that's the wonderful good news of the gospel is that Jesus paid that price for your sins, and you were imputed with and considered righteous by the Father. That's the good news. And now sanctification is next. And so when someone like me comes along and says, well, the gospel is more than just that point of salvation, there's other components to it. That's really what we're talking about, is there's growth and development and sanctification that follows as a new creation. And unfortunately, there are groups out there, and I guess the Southern Baptist Convention is totally cool with these groups until they get caught. But they're totally cool with these groups that modify and change and monkey with the gospel. They monkey with the identity of Christ himself. They monkey with his, they change his works and his character and his purposes and all of these things, but they still call it Jesus. So I guess it's okay with the Southern Baptist Convention. That's what we're going to talk about. And I'm not sure that I can fully express how big of a deal this is. But before we get to that, so a couple podcasts ago, we were talking about Bart Barber's appearance on 60 Minutes. So Bart Barber, the current president of the Southern Baptist Convention, goes on 60 Minutes with Anderson Cooper and basically throws the convention under the bus and acts like, at least in the cut interview that we saw, he acts like the Southern Baptist Convention leadership, the presidency, the executive committee, whoever it is, has now somehow changed their course and changed their position on dealing with abuse allegations, and they're done with all of that. They're done with ignoring those things, and now they're really going to take action. And then, of course, we find that Bart Barber, before or after this interview, but sometime near the interview, testifies in an affidavit to a South Carolina a court in a lawsuit that the Southern Baptist Convention is autonomous and that the institution is not responsible for allegations of sexual abuse in some autonomous SBC church. So talking out of both sides of his mouth. He says one thing to Anderson Cooper on CBS, and then another thing when he's providing a sworn affidavit in a court case. And so a lot of us were putting up videos that included clips from the 60 Minutes interview, providing commentary, adding our 2 cents to those videos, which is generally speaking protected under fair use, to clip newsworthy things for the purpose of commentary, and especially things that already start as news and as current event kind of stuff. Generally, that stuff is protected under fair use, and yet I'm getting reports from all over the evangelical interwebs that people's videos are being taken down. They're being copyright struck off of YouTube, specifically YouTube. I haven't heard of anybody's stuff getting pulled off of any other platform, but it sounds like, and I'll tell you why I think this here in a second, but it sounds like somebody is going around on behest of Bart Barber, perhaps, or the SBC elites or the SBC leadership, and with a list of channels maybe that they think would comment on this, or clip that in some way and issuing copyright strikes or complaining about these videos. And YouTube is saying, well, I guess CBS does own the copyright on that. So, and they're pulling the videos down. So they pulled down the live stream from this channel from a couple days ago, when the intelligence briefing, or it was either the intelligence briefing or Protestia Tonight, was talking about Bart Barber, and we streamed the replay a few different times. That video got yanked down off of YouTube. John Harris of Conversations That Matter, apparently his video got pulled down off of YouTube. His Facebook video of this got pulled down. That's very rare. So I can only suspect that somebody on behest of the platform, on behest of Bart Barber, doesn't like that we are exposing the errors and the problems and the things that he screwed up in that interview, and going around and complaining about these videos and getting them pulled down. And the reason I say that is because the Protestia Tonight YouTube channel currently is not a very big channel. Doesn't have a lot of subscribers, doesn't have a ton of viewership. This video, when the software is working correctly, which it is an issue tonight. Like, normally we stream this to Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. Tonight is only to YouTube. Tonight is only to YouTube because there's a problem with the Restream software that we normally use. Yeah, I see now in the chat. You notice I can't pop up the chat right now. I see Violet and Betty in the chat. I appreciate you being here. I can't pop up the chat on the video right now because Restream is having issues. But I switched it last second, went to YouTube, lost my microphone, had to restart the show. It's really, really amateur hour, I guess, around here, but that's okay. It's Thursday night. It's the bonus live stream from us. So, it is what it is. But so all of these videos are getting yanked down, and the Protestia Tonight channel, they yanked down our video. They copyright struck the replay, or where I posted the individual video by itself. They struck that down. And we have another video up where I've remixed the interview with Bart Barber to make my own interview and make him answer questions he didn't want to answer. They haven't touched that. So I tend to think this is not an automated pull down. I don't think this is software that's doing this. I think this is an individual doing this, going around and talking about this. Betty says in the chat, been a long day. So a sweet bonus. Thank you. Oh, you're very well. I was looking forward to it. And in two ways. Number one, I wanted to actually be live because I missed being live on Tuesday. That bugged me. And don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed being at my son's concert, his band concert at his school. That was very enjoyable, and I'm really glad that everybody's cool with me pre-recording in that situation. But I was looking forward to this for two reasons. Number one, to be live and talk with you guys live. Violet saying, love the lives. Me too. I think this is a great format and a great way to do it. But also because this SBC nonsense, this North American Mission Board nonsense, took a turn today. It took a turn into being even worse than it started out being. And I will explain that as we get into this issue. But suffice to say, somebody in the SBC on behest of Bart Barber is like, nobody can even talk about this. Anybody talking about this, we're going to strike them down. This tends to be the attitude for those that don't want to actually have conversations about issues. They'll try to get you on a technicality. I mean, this is why I'm fighting the precarious legal situation that some of you know about, that I'm fighting right now, because somebody decided I shouldn't have free speech and decided to attack my profession instead. So some of you know about that. I'm not going to get into that right now. Anyway, I'm going to start with the article that I put up about 3 hours ago, entitled Kevin Ezell Issues Non-Apology for NAMB Partnering with False Gospel. Just when you thought the SBC was as wayward and corrupt as it could get, enter Kevin Ezell. In response to massive pushback from the pews, the president of the SBC's North American Mission Board issued an apology letter for lending the rapidly waning credibility of the nation's largest church planting network to the He Gets Us campaign, a deep-funded advertising campaign promoting a false gospel and an unbiblical woke Jesus. So what happens here, to sum this up, is we see a few days ago a tweet go out, and I don't think I screenshotted it in the article. I probably should have. I guess apparently. Um, let's see if this will link over. We'll see if we can find it. Nope, of course. I'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, so let me find this NAMB tweet. Let's see if it even still exists. We're gonna do this. Since this is a live stream, we're gonna do this live and go look for the NAMB tweet. Let's see if it's still up. So you got Ezell's statement here. We'll get into that, of course. And as we scroll down, it looks like the North American Mission Board has deleted the tweet, because this was just a few days ago they put this out, and I'm not seeing it anymore. So, true to form for the platform, they've just decided to scrub it, pretend like it doesn't exist, and pretend like it never happened. But the internet is forever, and it's good that it's forever in this case, because what they've done exposes such a deep theological rot within the Southern Baptist Convention. The fact that this recommendation and quasi-partnership and all of this even got past the, laugh it off, that's ridiculous, why would we ever consider that kind of stage? The fact that it's even got that far should be horrifying to us all, when we only have to go surface deep with this group to realize this is not the real Jesus that they're promoting. This is a woke, social justice, human-focused, narcissistic, fake Jesus being promoted by this He Gets Us campaign. And yet the North American Mission Board just tweeted out their support like it was, that it was obvious that they should be partnering with this group. Like, they didn't even make it past stage 1 of discernment here. So you have the church planting network of the Southern Baptist Convention, and we'll get into Ezell's letter here to demonstrate just how bad this really is. But you have the church planting arm of the SBC endorsing what this group is saying, endorsing the fact that apparently if you get on their website and start chatting and trying to help find a church, and you say something like, I'm gay, where can I find a gay affirming church where they don't tell me that it's sinful, that they totally ignore what the Bible teaches about this, and they're fine with leaving me in my sin and lostness, they'll help you find a church for that. Southern Baptist Convention partnering with a group that has no theological doctrinal standards whatsoever. Worse than that, what they do say about Jesus is manifestly false. That's a big deal. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It looks like, because Tom Buck, I guess he must have been having like a flashbacks of his pulpit and pen time or something like that. He's ornery enough, and by the way, I totally support this, because I think that the point is important to prove, and I don't think that he basically masqueraded, I guess, if you want to even call it that. He went into the chat and basically said, I'm gay, where can I find a gay affirming church? And they told him, like, we'll get you some resources for that. And then he puts this on Twitter to expose how awful this group actually is. And then of course the woke pearl clutchers are like, I can't believe you would lie and say that you're gay to get this done. They're clutching their pearls like it's so horrible. It's like, well, you missed the point here. You missed the point. I consider what Tom Buck did in that circumstance to be righteous deception. I mean, honestly, because you have to remember that people that do bad things lie about it. They lie about it. And in order to expose it, sometimes you have to play tricks on them. We'll say it that way. Yeah, he did do a good job proving the point, but I think he does this from time to time. I think he sort of chickened out and decided, well, I gotta, and by the way, I got a bone to pick with these guys when I'm done kind of talking about what all of this is, because I'm certainly incensed about what the North American Mission Board is supporting here, and Kevin Ezell's quote unquote apology, which was just awful. It made it worse. It made it so much more obvious how problematic and how decrepit and just whitewashed tombs are all over the Southern Baptist Convention and the North American Mission Board. He made that very obvious. But here's what happened is, so regular folks, regular pew sitters on Twitter and guys like me and whatnot immediately saw how awful this was. Immediately. It didn't take very long. And basically made enough of a stink. Regular SBC pastors and others, guys like Mike Stone were torching him over, saying, "What are you guys doing? This is awful. This is terrible." And basically forced the North American Mission Board to come clean about what they were doing. I'm gonna get you a screenshot of this tweet. You guys have probably seen it already. But this was this is at the dissenter.com. He screenshotted this, and here it is. Don't miss this webinar today at 10 a.m. And this was tweeted out yesterday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Kevin Ezell and Ed Stetzer, or Beardy McGoatface, as I like to call him, are discussing how your church can join the He Gets Us movement. Now, parse those words real quick. The He Gets Us movement. It's a movement. It's a movement that the North American Mission Board and Ed Stetzer and Kevin Ezell want you to join with this movement. Use this evangelism campaign. So you got Kevin Ezell and Ed Stetzer, the North American Mission Board, saying this is an evangelism campaign. Now, of course, if we go over to the website, hegetsus.com. Featured article, Jesus was fed up with politics too. Is that true? I think that's an overstatement, but okay. Did Jesus face criticism? How did Jesus deal with injustice? How would Jesus be judged today? Jesus invited everyone to sit at the table. Let's go to this one. See if we think that this is actually the case. And of course, in true fashion, my audio is not working quite right. Okay, here we go.
Everywhere he looked, people suffered. Anxiety ran high, hope dwindled, hatred rose. His neighbors had lost trust in the system and in each other. I need to do something, he thought. I'll bring them together and feed them. Around the dinner table, they can talk and see how much they have in common. Shared struggles, shared joy, shared pain. So he prepared a feast and invited all into his home. But some refused to sit at his table because they chose to only see differences. He was heartbroken because he wanted everyone to eat and be filled, not with food and wine, but with compassion.
Well, it sounds like Jesus was some sort of big failure, huh? He tried to unite everybody and they just wouldn't do it. I mean, doesn't sound like much of a God to me. Right? Oh, that's right. This is not the real Jesus that they're talking about. This is a made-up Jesus of their social justice imagination. This is the campaign. This is the campaign that Ed Stetzer and Kevin Ezell and the Southern Baptist Convention wanted to partner with. And yes, it is partnering. They act like it isn't. But when we look at the tweet, we go back to the tweet. We got the screenshot here on the Dissenter. They are discussing how your church can join the movement. It's a movement. It's a movement. And this is totally in keeping with mega church, seeker-sensitive, programmatic, market-driven evangelicalism. The gospel isn't enough for these people, not the real gospel. They have to have a new way to sell it, a new ad campaign, new graphics. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me a lot of Rob Bell and his Pneuma videos. And the emergent church. We have a new way to the message of Jesus, and nothing's wrong with that, but it's, there's something wrong with the church and with Christians. And so we can characterize this in a new and fresh and hip way that young people will respond to. That's what we're looking at here. And one of two things is the case. Either the North American Mission Board knew exactly what this was and decided that they were going to try to partner with it anyway, and that they were just going to railroad conservative evangelicals who they knew would have a problem with it. That's one option. Or the other option is that they have absolutely no discernment whatsoever and will happily partner with anything that says Jesus. Oh, it says Jesus? Oh, that's good enough for me. No, you don't need to do anything. Just tweet it out. Marketing team, tweet it out. Make sure that they know that they need to jump on the webinar to figure out how to be hip and cool with Jesus now. That's what this is. And what it really exposes, let's talk about the Kevin Ezell letter here. So in his letter, his letter that he must have typed this out real quickly, like, super fast, because there's misspellings in it, but I digress. In his letter, he says, it's all about the gospel. The goal is to equip churches with the resources necessary to reach North America with the gospel, to love those who do not know him and lead them to saving faith in Jesus Christ. Now, first of all, I would argue there's already a problem with this. First paragraph, first sentence, there's already a problem with this. The problem with it is we're told to preach the gospel. There's a difference between preaching the gospel and what he's saying, lead them to a saving faith. They're softening this idea that you can just preach the gospel faithfully, and that the Holy Spirit will do the work. No, instead, it's on us. We're supposed to lead them to saving faith. So, of course, we would ask, well, how am I supposed to lead someone to saving faith if faith is a gift from God? I can't lead them to saving faith if God's going to give them faith. I just preach the gospel unapologetically. I preach law and gospel, God's truth. His Spirit moves, and he saves whom he will save. But if you take this at face value, you're going to lead them to saving faith. That puts the onus on me. What am I going to do? How am I going to convince them? How am I going to massage the message so they'll respond to it? This is seeker sensitivity. This is the fruit of the church growth movement that you're seeing here. This idea that it's on us to figure out how to make the gospel message palatable. Can we make it palatable to the world? What new marketing strategy can we use? And as long as, it doesn't even matter to these people which Jesus we're talking about, the Jesus of Scripture as testified to in the Holy Scripture, or a Jesus of their own imagination. They don't care. As long as we get people talking about Jesus, that will work. He goes on to say, given the diverse population of our continent, here it goes, we're always looking for ways to reach every person in their unique context with relevant resources that are true to the gospel. Notice the false framework here, as if somehow the gospel isn't equally relevant to every lost person. No, there's different gospels for different people, different ways to sell it for different people, different ways to talk about it to different people groups. This is the disease of collectivism and intersectionality grafted onto the church. This is supposedly the most conservative Protestant denomination in the country. And we have the president of the church planting arm, the North American Mission Board president, writing for all to see that we're trying to reach every person in their unique context. That's code word for you might have to say it differently or couch it differently or talk about Jesus in a different way to different groups. As if somehow Jesus of Scripture is not equally relevant to everybody. I fundamentally disagree with that. That's unbiblical. He says the He Gets Us campaign invited NAMB to involve Southern Baptist churches, along with several other denominations, interested in engaging people who have more questions and would like to connect with a local church. So this campaign apparently has some sort of a contact chat or something like that where you can ask, and they'll put you in contact with a Southern Baptist church or a United Methodist church, an Evangelical Lutheran church. How many other churches are going to be involved in this? And they'll put you in contact with the one that agrees with your theology, not the one that's true. So Southern Baptist churches we're supposed to be partnering with a whole bunch of other denominations. How many other true denominations are there? Just a handful. Many more that I would argue are not preaching the true gospel. Many more. I guarantee they're on the list along with these SBC churches for this He Gets Us campaign. He says, as it involved no NAMB funding, like we care about the money versus the truth. Kevin, really? You think we care about the money? That's what it is? Well, as long as we don't have to pay for it, we're totally cool with the false gospel. We're not. He said the ads and materials were provided by the campaign. I saw this as this is the problem. I saw this, the president of the North American Mission Board saw this ecumenical woke Jesus campaign as an opportunity to connect more people to our churches who have questions about Jesus. Really, you saw this as your opportunity. A website and a campaign painting an entirely false picture of who Jesus actually is and what his actual purposes were and what his actual teachings were. That was an opportunity. And again, this is the pragmatism. Well, we get him talking about Jesus. He's talking about Jesus. This person's talking about Jesus. It doesn't matter if the person's talking about a false Jesus or not, apparently. As long as it's Jesus, maybe we can get him into the church. He says, he writes, knowing that these ads will be seen by millions of people, again, the pragmatism, well, lots of people are going to see it, so how could we not get on board? I mean, this is church growth methodology, folks. This is exactly what we're looking at. He says, we hope to help Southern Baptists engage the opportunity from the conversations these ads will create. So is that what we do? That's what we do? We're totally cool with a false gospel, the declaration of manifest falsehood and lies. We're cool with videos that just speak straight lies as long as they start a conversation. As long as they start a conversation, we'll promote lies as long as it gets them to the table talking about Jesus, then we'll tell them the real truth. But they can start with the lies. We'll feed them lies. Like, this is unbiblical methodology. This is not trusting the Spirit. This is not trusting the will of God to save whom he will save, and that we unapologetically preach the truth. We're going to massage the truth. We're going to change it. We're okay with modifying it as long as it gets people talking about Jesus. Which Jesus it is apparently doesn't matter. He says, however, here goes the mea culpa, I guess. However, upon further consideration, the effort is too broad for us to directly connect with the campaign. The effort is too broad. Like, by broad, you mean theologically broad? Like it may have some truth, but then it has a bunch of falsehood. That's Kevin Ezell's he calling that effort too. I'm at a loss for, as you can tell, I'm at a loss for words. This is so ridiculous. This is so awful. He says, in my desire to help our churches, your job is not to help churches over proclamation of the gospel. I mean, I'm going to treat you like a believer until I know better, even though I have my suspicions at this point. In my desire to help our churches, I did less diligence than I should have. That's inexcusable. You're the president of an SBC institution, and you were so anxious to help the churches that you didn't even do discernment 101, man. You didn't even look in the group that you were endorsing, apparently. You left it up to those in the pews, those contributing cooperative program dollars to fund the North American Mission Board. The grandmas and grandpas and SBC pew sitters that fund your organization had to do your job for you. And when called out and exposed for the indefensibly nonsensical endorsement of this group, this is the best you can come up with? This is the best you can say? I did less diligence. Like, the He Gets Us campaign is promoting a totally false Christ, totally false Jesus, a Jesus that's totally fallible. And before you can even think to do diligence, as you say, you're promoting the group. You're endorsing it. You're saying it's a good thing. You're having a webinar to teach churches how to join up with these guys. For shame. Now, the reason that this is a bigger deal than I think we may even realize that it is, this is the North American Mission Board letting the cover slip for a second. This isn't some mistake made out of good faith. It's not. I know we like to think that it is, that their heart was in the right place. It's not in the right place. That's the whole problem. If you can't get to the point where, I mean, they endorsed this group and we're moving forward like this is okay. And in reality, it should have been laughed out of the room the first second it was suggested. It should have been the first time that Kevin Ezell pulled up the website, the He Gets Us website, and read the first few lines and, the first few paragraphs of an article. His response should have been, no, this is garbage. This is not the real Christ. Of course, we're not going to suggest that our churches partner with this. And yet, not only did that not happen, but they were just whistling Dixie as they endorsed the group and acted like this was a good thing. What does that tell us? That tells us that more than it just being some sort of their heart was in the right place and they screwed up, at the core of what these institutions do and believe, their principles, is not gospel ministry. It's institutional pragmatism. If the North American Mission Board and the Southern Baptist Convention has to totally shift their understanding of Christology and proper doctrine when it comes to Jesus Christ to continue to grow the institutions, that's what they'll do. These groups gave NAMB apparently a whole bunch of money, as far as we can tell. And that's all it takes, I guess, to get these supposedly Christian men to totally throw out the Bible. That's all it takes. This is such a fundamental corruption, such evidence of fundamental corruption that this kind of thing ever saw the light of day, was even hinted at, much less endorsed from the top of the institution. It is just another just smoking gun, siren going off, flying red flag, indicating how deeply and institutionally corrupt the Southern Baptist Convention really is. Like, those of us that think that it's possible to save it, you might win the presidency next time. But what this incident has shown us is that the swamp goes so much deeper than you realize that it does. This institution has been corrupted from top to bottom for longer than most of us realize. Because again, there's no way that the head of this, not only did they just promote this out in the open, like it was totally cool, they didn't even anticipate the backlash. So not only were they promoting this group that has a false Christ and a false gospel, just like it was no big deal, they didn't even realize that the majority, I would argue still the majority of pew-sitting SBC church members would be incensed by this, would immediately see how false this was. So the disconnect between the pews and the institution the chasm is so much wider than people realize it is. And which brings me to my next point about all of this. I'm not sure at this point who I'm more miffed at. Kevin Ezell and the North American Mission Board, they've been woke for who knows how long. That's not much of a surprise. It's interesting that they let their cover slip this obviously. You got him at the end of this thing, at the end of this letter saying, he did less diligence than he should have. That's on me and I apologize. Although NAMB will not be involved, we will pray, get this, we will pray that the conversations begun by this campaign will lead to gospel-centered conversations and cause many to seek and learn more about Jesus. So, to Kevin Ezell and apparently the North American Mission Board, you can start with a false Christ. Start with totally false framework about who Jesus was, what his actual purposes were. You can start with that and somehow make your way back to the real Jesus. Make your way back to a quote-unquote gospel-centered conversation. So you're going to have a gospel-centered conversation centered around a fake Jesus, a false Jesus. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And yet, not entirely surprising because they've been going down this trail for a long time. It's surprising that they let it slip this obviously. This is a major Freudian slip by the North American Mission Board to really just expose who they actually are. And at the best, at the most generous, they are institutional pragmatists who will do just about anything to grow the churches and grow the institutions and that kind of thing, partner with anybody. What I suspect more is that they're corrupted to the core, that their beliefs are corrupted. Yeah, methodology follows beliefs, ladies and gentlemen. And when your methodology is this askew, this problematic, this evil, and it really is evil to partner with these kind of groups for the quote unquote sake of the gospel. We need to torch the whole thing. Not literally. Don't send me hate mail. But this is just one more. Like I don't understand how churches are staying at this point, sending money to this, because this is the North American Mission Board pulling a PayPal. As those of you that know, PayPal's acceptable use policy was discovered to have potential confiscating of the money out of your PayPal account if you say something they don't like. And there was such an uproar. They ran out and said, no. We were just, that was a draft and we didn't mean to say, we weren't going to say that. But the fact that they even wrote a draft that said anything like that exposes how PayPal as a company actually thinks about its users that of course fund it and they pay transaction fees to run money through PayPal. They apparently think that their users should be censored from moving their own money around based off of their speech. And so even though they came out and said, oh, we didn't mean it, like the fact you even wrote it down means that exposes a lot about the way you think. This is the same thing from the North American Mission Board. Yeah, Kevin Ezell can get out and write this letter and say, we're not going to partner with him. He didn't even apologize, by the way. He didn't even say, all he said was, I did less diligence than I should have. That's on me and I apologize. He says apologize. That's on me but he's not apologizing for the real problem here. He's not apologizing for the fact that they were willingly partnering with an organization that promotes a false Christ. It's just, well, I did less diligence. This effort's too broad. It's not specific enough. And really what he's saying behind the scenes most likely is those fuddy-duddy SBC conservatives they just don't know what we know as the experts around here on how to do this the right way. They got to make a stink about it. He didn't even see this coming, apparently, that partnering with his group was going to cause such an uproar. He didn't even see it. And so the reason I say that the North American Mission Board is doing a PayPal here is because they've now come out and apologized and they're not going to partner with this group anymore, supposedly. But the fact that it even started, the fact that it was even in consideration, the fact that they got as far as they did with like, go to a webinar and we'll help teach your church how to partner with this group, it shows what they really believe. Remember, liars lie. Liars lie. And they will continue to lie. And when you call them out directly, they will issue a letter like this that's still a deflection. It's still deception. And I have a real beef with this. I mean, honestly, this followed, and I think we can probably find this. I'm gonna go down this list of people that quote tweeted Kevin Ezell's letter and tell you why I have a problem with this. And this is going to be risky because this is going to implicate friends of mine. I'm sure, but I'm going to take issue with it. Here's your quote tweets. Much respect, Kevin Ezell. Now, let me start it with this way. If you read this letter from Kevin Ezell, if you're an SBC pastor, you're an evangelical pastor, you read this letter and you were like, thank you, we appreciate you doing the right thing. You're an idiot. Let me say that straight up. You're an idiot. You're the kind of person where somebody lies right to your face and shows you who they are, and then they say, I'm sorry, and you're like, okay, good. I guess he must not really be that way. You're like the guy who gets his car stolen, and then, like, as the car is trying to drive out of the neighborhood, it finds out, oh, the gate is stopping you from getting out of the neighborhood. And so the guy has to shrug and say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to try to steal your car. You're like, that's okay. That's okay. I know you didn't mean to steal my car. Thank you for giving it back. You're not realizing the depth of this problem if you're like, okay, good. Now Kevin Ezell, he's done the right thing. He hasn't done the right thing. He hasn't done the right thing. The fact he only said this because they got caught. If there wasn't an uproar, if there wasn't those of us that did just a little bit of discernment work on this group, if that hadn't happened, they'd still be promoting the group right now. They would have had their nice little webinar, and they would still be pushing Southern Baptist churches to join with this false gospel promoting group. So the fact that he got caught, got his hand caught in the cookie jar of ecumenicism and false theology, and then has to come to the table and say, okay, we're not going to partner with them anymore. Like, stop giving him any credit whatsoever for this. All these, he got caught, so he apologized, sorta, and said, we're not going to partner with this group, but I hope they have success anyway. That's what he said. And then we got people, thank you, Kevin Ezell, thank you. Yeah, so we have smart people here saying, now do, this is the dissenter, now do FBC Orlando. Oh, I know, here's Josh Baker, I don't know who this is. I know I've had to eat a lot of crow in my life, haven't been in a high-profile leadership position. I have much respect. You have respect for this? Really? Respect for Kevin Ezell and NAMB. Thankful for the statement and thankful to now move forward. No, they're just going to do this stuff again. Without the backlash, they would have kept doing the same thing. And they got called out, and so they changed their mind, all the while still saying, hey, I hope this group does well. This won't stop a thing. They're just going to try it again and try it again. And maybe this time they'll try it again, but maybe not be so vocal about it, so regular pew sitters don't see what's going on. Yeah, yep. This is a lot like PayPal's regret for a bad decision that was just not considered, but that was not just considered, but actually implemented. A look at the quote tweets reveals something important in absence of discernment, lack of true integrity, and uncovers the liberal drift. Local woke SBC, thank you for your integrity leading well. Integrity would have been not, there's more thread here. I like this. I like where this is going. You can tell. Not hitching up to the he gets us wagon. Thankfully, though, they unhitched. If you look at the feed of these quote tweeters, the pastors praising this, how many do you find that rightly called this out? Very, very few. That silence spoke loudly. Totally agree. This dude saying solid. It isn't solid. It isn't solid. Thank you, Dr. Ezell. So let's get this straight. You have a bunch of people here saying, we're really glad that you exercise literally no discernment whatsoever, probably negative discernment, ecumenical partnership with rank evil, because it is evil to misrepresent Christ. It just is. And you got caught, and so you had to come to the table and say, okay, we're not going to join with them anymore. And getting somehow this is praiseworthy. It isn't. Well done, sir. Wasn't well done. Yeah, Jeff Wright, either Ezell and NAMB didn't look at what they were signing up for or only decided it was a problem after the backlash. Either version means they aren't cut out to lead and Southern Baptists deserve better. Amen. That's exactly the truth. That's on me. Refreshing language. What? Are you kidding? Yeah, Michelle Leslie, the decision has been reversed. Thankful the decision was made. Yes, I'm thankful the decision was made. It doesn't make Kevin Ezell and the North American Mission Board any less corrupt just because they got caught this time, but I agree with this. It's not just on him, it's on NAMB SBC trustees that have enabled this kind of behavior and decision-making for a long time. The message and aim of the campaign has not changed in the past 7 months. It took normal people less than 30 minutes to know this was not a good idea. Exactly. And that's why we have to lean towards this being intentional and corrupt. Because a modicum of discernment would have caught this. Almost immediately, this was caught by regular people once they started promoting it. And that's why I say this is evidence of such deep corruption. Such deep corruption in the Southern Baptist Convention. You got, come on, man. Teaching pastor at Go Family Church, Kevin Smith, and pop this up again, saying, leaders lead, leaders make decisions, accountable leaders explain decisions, humble leaders own decisions and consequences, humble leaders can apologize, much respect. Come on, man. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Yeah, respectful that he got his hand caught in the cookie jar and then he'd go, yeah, I'm sorry. No. It's not leadership to try to pull one over on everybody. And then when you get caught, say, okay, I just didn't look closely enough. That was your job, man. That was your job. There's people that are like this. They want trophies and recognition and all this for doing what they were already supposed to do. And he's getting it here. That's the worst part. Like, what kind of a bumble-headed pastor do you have to be to see this and say, we forced him to make the right decision. He was forced to do it by regular pew sitters, and yet you're going to give Kevin Ezell the respect for this and the North American Mission Board the respect? Give me a break. He should be fired. He should be let go. There is absolutely no reason, if the SBC has any credibility whatsoever, that this kind of a just inexcusable blunder, like Awana kids could see this was a false Jesus. This wouldn't pass Cubbies. And yet this is an institutional leader. He's going to keep his job. And they're going to try this kind of stuff again. Yeah, how many oopsies is NAMB going to have before real change occurs? Seriously, SBC, wake up and take back the gospel from the charlatans in your midst. Also, read the last paragraph carefully. Pay attention to what he presents the issue as and what the solution is. Exactly. There's me, talking about the PayPal strategy. This is what strong and faithful leaders look like. Thanks, Kevin. No, it isn't. No, I mean, let's imagine this for a second. We're going to close the program with this because I'm getting to the end of the time. I appreciate all of you being on the live stream, even with the early technical difficulties. I really do appreciate it. We don't do Thursday nights and normally anyway. and those of you that this will be replayed on the live stream and whatnot as going forward. So, thankful for those of you that will tune in to see it later. Of course, we have SBC Voices Jay Adkins chiming in. I'm thankful for this, and anytime a brother or sister recognize they overstepped. Really, Jay? Really? They overstepped? So the North American Mission Board partnering with a false gospel. That's just overstepping. It was just an oopsie, a boo-boo, whoops. I mean, they said Jesus. How are we supposed to know it wasn't the real Jesus? Give me a break, man. You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Okay, for this example, let's just say that Kevin Ezell, whoever, let's just say any evangelical leader in a position of institutional leadership of a supposedly Christian organization is on social media or publishes an article or something where they say, I think that Jesus was created by the Father. I think that Jesus wasn't eternally existing as a person in the Godhead, but that the Father created him at some point. Let's just say they say that. And it goes kind of unnoticed. Maybe they find some groups that, that sort of say the same thing that they're kind of working with behind the scenes. And then eventually they kind of come out and say it, hey, we're partnering with this group over here that thinks that Jesus was a created being. And all of us call them out on it. And then they come out with a letter saying, oh, I made a mistake. Actually, that wasn't what I meant to say. I really do believe that Jesus was co-eternal person of the Godhead. I really do believe that. What would we do? Would you see this list of namby-pamby pastors out there saying, thank you for your integrity, evangelical leader. Thank you for finally coming back to the table and correcting this false thing that you were caught up in. Would we say that? No. We would say he's just lying because he got caught. This is what he really believed is what he acted like, what he did. That's what we would say. And how is this too different? How is this different than that? You partner with an evangelical, quote unquote, evangelical group that preaches a false gospel, false Jesus. It's just dripping with social justice, just dripping with intersectionality and critical theory and all these unbiblical, worldly, Marxist-sourced ideas. And you run with it like this is going to be cool with everybody. When we all say it's not cool, it's not biblical, we're not okay with it, and you have to come to the table and say, I guess we're not going to partner with this anymore, we're all supposed to think, oh, he's actually Orthodox? Oh, this group is actually Orthodox? This was just a boo-boo? This was a calamitous doctrinal error, calamitous associational error committed by the largest organization, or the second largest organization in the Southern Baptist Convention. Inexcusable. And yet we're supposed to just take Kevin Ezell's letter where he's like, whoopsie, like it was an overstep. This was too broad. We can't really partner with it. We're supposed to just take that and be like, oh, okay. I guess he's actually Orthodox. I guess he actually doesn't believe in this litany of garbage that he was partnering the Southern Baptist Convention with. That's what we're supposed to accept. If you are a pastor who is retweeting Kevin Ezell's letter saying, thank you for being faithful. Thank you for, you're a moron. You're a moron, and you deserve to have your church partner with this kind of stuff. Unreal, man. You see this guy that can't exercise discernment, and so you respond by not exercising discernment. The only people that we should be seeing on social media right now who are saying, good job, Kevin, for fixing this, thank you for fixing this, are the platform shills at SBC Voices. Those are the only people that should be on here saying this. We see anybody on here saying, thank you, this is what leadership looks like, you're a tool. If you're sitting here saying this is what leadership looks like, you're a straight moron, and your congregation deserves better. Your pastor's saying this, you might need to leave. I don't say that lightly. That's a serious thing I'm saying. Your pastor's on social media saying, thank you, Kevin Ezell, for your leadership. You probably need to find a better church. It's not going to get any better. Because your pastor has no more discernment than Kevin Ezell does, if that's what he's saying. Unbelievable. Thank you for your humble response and disassociation. Come on. Grateful for the leadership of Kevin Ezell at NAMB. Really? This was leadership. This was leadership. If this is what the Southern Baptist Convention and churches think was leadership, we got just major problems, and it ain't coming back. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me for this episode of Protestia Tonight. For all the troublemakers we're going to keep following this story because that's what we do. This story, there's going to be more developments, I'm sure, so stay tuned to protestia.com for the latest. And I will see you next Tuesday. Please pray for me as I try to figure out how to make this TV, the TV station, the daily live stream work a little bit better than it was working this week. It'd be awesome. I will see you again next time. Thank you. And as always, Semper Reformanda.